Hello everyone, good day and welcome to our channel Empower Africa Now. I received requests from some of you to talk about informed consent as some have been approached to participate in research. So I decided to create this time to provide this content to you. I hope that you find it useful. The process of consent actually involves both the participant and the researcher. On the one hand, the participant has to agree to participate. In other words, they have to consent. That's the right terminology that we use in research. Meanwhile, the researcher has to demonstrate to an institutional review board that we call IRB. They have to demonstrate how they will administer and secure that consent. And so you often hear about an informed consent form. So I just want to reiterate this, that it's a two-way process. And I must say that not all research requires your consent. Of course, you remember when you do maybe like polls or you fill out questionnaires that have been sent to you by email, they don't ask you to consent, right? But what we note with such polls or surveys is that they do not necessarily ask for your personal information or a lot of detail. So they are usually anonymous. There is also another word that we talk about, assent, that I won't go into all of that today, but let's just stay with consent, informed consent, typically involving studies whereby some information will be, in fact, they involve studies that have to collect data from human subjects. And so let us get going. What do you get from this presentation, you may ask? It will help you to understand what must happen before you accept or consent to participate in the study. You will also be able to distinguish between recruitment poster, the participant information sheet, and a consent form. These are things that happen before actually a researcher reaches you for to consent for a study. You would have to have been recruited. You would have to have been provided some information about the study. We will discuss all of that. So that's some of the takeaways from this presentation. And finally, you will be able to make an informed decision whether to participate or not to participate, and a decision that is right for you. And of course, you can advise some of your own family members. So, as I mentioned before you actually get administered consent, you would have been recruited into a study. So they may use a recruitment poster or a letter. You have received upon recruitment, if you are eligible, you will receive more information and then the consent form. So I just want to talk about each of those in turn. Okay, so what is a recruitment poster, or how can you be recruited into the study? Generally, a recruitment poster is a document that is prepared by the researchers. So they used to recruit the study subjects by sending out that document with some information, limited information about the study. This document oftentimes can be vetted by an IRB, an institutional review board, to see the kind of information that is there. You know, human subjects research is critical in vetting to know what kind of information is really going to be collected. So anyone doesn't go out there and do anything. So the recruitment poster, also you can find on it basic information, basically stating the purpose of the study, eligibility criteria, that is who can participate, what you need to do if you are interested, and often we include the researcher's contact information, name, email, or phone number on that poster. So once you have a recruitment poster and you assess all of this and you think you are interested, then you can contact the researcher to participate. There are various channels to administer a recruitment poster, various channels for recruiting study participants. So flyers, you can find flyers on notice boards It can be by word of mouth, that is referrals, person to person. So you can also find information on billboards, newspaper ads, mass emails, in social media even. You can have information circulated there around research. So over the internet, that is the ways by which participants can be recruited. So upon recruitment, the next stage is a little bit more information before you actually participate. So once you've been screened as eligible by the researchers, they generally will provide you with what we call a participant information sheet. This is a comprehensive document that is intended to provide as much detail as possible about the study, so you can make decisions for yourself or for your loved ones in case you are a parent or guardian to a child that is to be involved in a study. The participant information sheet can also be helpful for you to make those decisions. So it is often derived from generic templates developed by institutional review boards. So IRBs attached to universities or standalone institutions, research centers, they do have generic templates that they have developed for this. It is offered to those that have been screened and recruited. It facilitates decision making, whether to participate or not. That's why I talk about detailed information. So it states the purpose, it explains why you are being invited, why you and not other persons. So it's included in this participant information sheet. What you would have to do should you decide to participate, or during the study. Actually, what would you do during the study? Are you going to fill out a questionnaire? Are you going to take medication? And so on and so forth. So all of that is included. So it also addresses the fact that whether there are any benefits to the study or not. Look, for example, studies that are being done now on clinical trials for drugs, vaccines against coronavirus. So it addresses those benefits, and if it's a clinical trial, it will tell you specifically if you are being randomized in a placebo group as opposed to the experimental group, what happens if benefits are deduced from that trial. Okay, so these things are well spelled out, and there are ways to ensure that even when you are in a placebo group and there are benefits that come from the treatment group, that the preliminary data upon having been reported can get you into those benefits. So I won't go too much detail into that, because this is all guided by a famous document we call the Belmont Principles. So we can discuss that later on. But this information is provided in detail in a participant information sheet. It also can tell you and more specify if there are financial incentives to the study. You will be told that information. It will be included in the participant information sheet, whether there are any financial incentives. If so, how will you be paid? It also includes information about the duration of the study and if there are any potential risk or side effects, if it involves drugs or if it involves issues of privacy, confidentiality, how the data that you provide will be secured. Okay, so these are all included. It also specifies your right to drop out from the study if you so wish. You can drop out or stay and complete the study. If drop out is not allowed, it will be spelled out. It will be spelled out in the participant information sheet, so that you are making an informed decision at the end. The form usually ends with who to contact in case of any questions. Generally, you can have the researchers' names on it, or their assistants, or the research ethics board that would approve the study. You can have their contact information there. Because one of the things that we have in research is there may be situations of adverse events. So all of that is included in the participant information sheet. So if you will have to sign a consent form or not in order to participate, this information is usually included. So you know whether your decision to participate means you will sign a consent form that binds you to, it's an agreement that you will have to sign or you will not have to sign. That means the study does not require a consent form. So if you go through the participant information sheet and you are satisfied with all of what you have read, the above, this is not an exclusive list of what may be included. In fact, in studies that we categorize as minimal risk, it will include less of this information as opposed to clinical trials or other studies that may be of more risk. It may have a lot more details. So in any scenario, once you've decided on whether to participate, your next step will then be to sign a consent form for studies that have consent form, of course. So the consent form is really the last stage where you consent. The consent form is a standardized document where you acknowledge your decision to participate in a study by way of signature, adding your name and a date. It is derived from the generic templates. Various IRBs, institutional review boards, they have different templates, but in most cases, the information that is included on a consent form is very similar. It can be structured differently. So sometimes it can be a series of questions requiring you to answer yes or no. So it all depends on which approach is being used by the respective IRB. So it also includes exact information as presented in the participant information sheet. It can include exact information. Note that the participant information sheet is very detailed, and so the consent form can repeat all of what you find on the participant information sheet with just the addition of the signature pages. So in summary, a consent form can be same as the participant information sheet with just the signature pages, name and date added to it. So both the researcher and the participants have to sign the consent form. And note that in most cases, you may not have access. It may not be the researcher that is administering the consent form. So it could be research assistants. So in this scenario, in most cases, there are research assistants who are in charge in implementing the research in the field. So the research assistant will be signing the consent form together with you who has decided to participate. In some studies, provision is made for a witness to sign, depending on the complexity of the study. But these are rare situations. Okay, and especially in jurisdictions where lawsuits are rampant, where there's a lot of issues of liability. So they may have witnesses. This is very common in the United States to have witnesses sign for some complex studies. Okay, so as I mentioned before, for studies that involve minors below 18 years of age, or even persons that are incapacitated by some reason and they are unable to appraise the information and endorse signing, you can have a parent or a guardian appraise and sign on their behalf. So this is typical with minors and persons that are incapacitated. So consent forms can be presented in the study language and that which the participant understands. What does this mean? Very important to know this point. Suppose a study is being conducted in English, the consent forms are presented in English. So suppose that the participants to the study are predominantly not understanding English. Maybe they are speaking Arabic or Swahili or Kiriwandi or any other language. It therefore means that if the participants, the researchers must recruit those participants for that research, they will have to translate the consent form to the language that they understand and can speak. So consent forms are often translated. So when you look at all of this and you decide to participate, then you affix your signature on the consent form, and the researcher or their assistant signs. It is also very advisable that you have to keep a copy of your consent form. It is advisable to keep a copy for the purpose of referring to what you consented to, and just in case something happens. So do not sign a consent form and not retain your copy unless it has been stated that participants are not expected to keep a copy, which is very rare in research. So this is the informed consent process, what you go through to actually make a decision to participate in a study. I hope this information is useful. It's very basic. I hope it's useful for you to be able to make decisions when you are being invited into a study, whether to participate or not to participate. And should you participate, what you need to know. And you can equally advise your loved ones and incapacitated persons when the need arises. So we are at your disposal to consistently break down some of this complex information that you find in the scientific literature to make it understandable at your level. We are at your disposal for various things, including statistical data analysis and research support. This is what we do. If you like this video, please subscribe if you've not already done so that you should not miss any upcoming videos. We are at your disposal. Comment, let us know if you have any other specific questions. Let us know. Thank you for watching. Subscribe. Look forward to meeting you in our next video. Thank you.